Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 1.4. Today we'll be talking about ecology, energy, producers, and consumers. Remember, as we go through this lesson, to fill out your guided notes, you can either print those and handwrite them, or if you want to type them as we go through, that's perfectly fine. You can also just handwrite notes in your notebook. You do not have to follow the guided notes, but the guided notes do tend to kind of point out the more important points for each lesson. So first we have a video, so energy and ecosystems video. If you want to pause here, you can go back to blend and the video will be linked in blend. So go ahead, pause here, watch that video, and write out your answers. Okay, after you've watched that video, you should have your answers. They will not be written here. So ecology and the biosphere. Ecology is the study of interactions among organisms and between organisms and their environment. The biosphere consists of all life on Earth and all parts of Earth in which life exists. That includes land, water, air, and the atmosphere. Here are our levels of organization. You notice that all of these terms over here are in blue. These are all vocabulary terms, so make sure to write these down and have these memorized for your vocabulary warm-ups and/or quizzes. Populations are groups of individuals of the same species that live in the same area. Okay, so here we have this diagram. You can kind of follow that as we go along. Communities are assemblages of different populations that live together in a defined area. An ecosystem is all of the organisms in a particular place together with both the non-living or abiotic environment. And we'll kind of discuss what abiotic and biotic means in just a moment. A biome is a group of ecosystems that share similar climates and communities, and the biosphere consists of all life on Earth, and that includes all parts in which life exists, including land, water, and the atmosphere. So here, kind of think to yourself, what would be a level below populations? What is the most inclusive level, and what is the least inclusive level of organization? So pause for just a second and think. Okay, so an individual, I just said the answer. The level below populations would be an individual, okay, shown here in this diagram. What is the most inclusive level, or the one that encompasses all of the levels? That would be the biosphere. And the least inclusive level of organization is going to be the population. Yes, you could also say individual, but we're going to go ahead and say population because that is one of our vocabulary terms. For biotic and abiotic factors, you're going to hear those two words quite a bit this year. So the word environment refers to all external factors that determine conditions surrounding an organism. External factors include both biotic and abiotic factors. So biotic factors, think biological influences on organisms. So biotic factors are basically any living thing that includes other organisms, including animals, plants, mushrooms, and bacteria. Abiotic, okay, physical components. That is any non-living external factors such as sunlight, heat, precipitation, and so on and so forth. So abiotic are non-living external factors. Biotic are living external factors. Now, primary producers, remember this is a vocab term. They are organisms that obtain energy from non-living sources and can convert it into energy-rich compounds that living cells can use. So an example, both photosynthesis and chemosynthesis are methods that primary producers use to make energy. So primary producers are the first producers that are later used by other organisms. They are essential in the foundation of all ecological systems, and they are essential to the flow of energy through the biosphere. So here, if you look at this diagram, you can kind of start to see some of our levels that we're going to speak about. Now, photosynthesis. So primary producers that obtain energy from sunlight do so through the process of photosynthesis. And we're sure that you've heard this term before. We're going to talk about photosynthesis quite a bit more so later in the unit in lesson 1.12. But photosynthesis is a process that captures light energy and uses it to power chemical reactions that converts carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and energy-rich carbohydrates. This process adds oxygen to the atmosphere and removes carbon dioxide. Plants are our main photosynthetic primary producers on land. Certain algae are also important in fresh water. And then there's also photosynthetic bacteria called cyanobacteria, and they are important in primary producers in aquatic ecosystems as well. Another term you might hear is chemosynthesis. So primary producers in unique ecosystems can harness chemical energy from inorganic molecules, such as hydrogen sulfide. Chemosynthesis is the process that uses chemical energy to produce energy-rich carbohydrates. Many chemosynthetic bacteria live inside tissues of certain types of worm and clams. Some of them live in harsh environments such as deep sea volcanic vents, kind of shown here in this diagram on the right. And now we're on to consumers. Okay, so animals, fungi, and many bacteria that cannot harness energy from the environment such as primary producers do. So instead, consumers are organisms that must acquire energy from other organisms by eating them. Here are some of the types of consumers that we're going to speak about. Remember, it's kind of hard to categorize consumers in every single category just because they're usually more complex, but here's a good kind of way to start. So herbivores eat plants, carnivores eat other animals, omnivores eat a variety of different foods, scavengers consume dead animals, decomposers chemically break down organic matter, and detrivores eat detritus matter. Detritus are pieces of dead and decaying plant and animal remains. Go ahead, pause your lecture here, watch the video, and then return here when done. Okay, now that you watched the video, you should have answered these 2 questions in your notes. So, exit ticket, go ahead, pause here, try these on your own, and then we will come back and go over them. Now for the exit ticket, let's go ahead and check ourselves. So list the levels of organization from most to least inclusive. So biosphere encompasses the most levels of organizations, biome, ecosystem, community, and then last, population. If you put individual after population, that is also perfectly fine. Classify each of the following as a biotic or abiotic factor. Sunlight is abiotic or non-living. Plants are biotic or living. Animals, also biotic. Weather, abiotic. What are 2 ways primary producers can obtain energy? The 2 ways we talked about are photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. And last, how do consumers obtain energy by eating other organisms or producers? Now that you've finished watching this lesson, make sure to go back through, check your vocabulary terms, and thank you for listening.